Добрий день, мене звуть Ольга Таман.
Hello, I'm Olga Atamanova. I'd like to welcome everyone who is joining our discussion platform, Brain Hub, founded by Ukraine Forum. It has been the 561st day since the onset of full-scale invasion, and it's the 10th year of the war. We are having a discussion about higher education in the wartime conditions, about its challenges and accomplishments. Let me introduce our today's speakers. We have with us Serhii Horbachov, Ukrainian educational ombudsman, and also Ivanna Kobernyk, co-founder of Smart Osvita, and also in a matter of minutes, we will be joined by Inna Sovsun, Member of Parliament and the first Deputy of Education and Science Minister in 2013-2016. So let's first discuss the beginning of the academic year. Has its start been successful in every region of Ukraine, and what are the challenges we need to address? Hello, everyone. This academic year has started, and that's indeed a very important accomplishment because the situation is difficult. There are risks, there are limitations that need to be addressed, and the fact that this year is going to be difficult, it's a clear fact. It will be difficult because of the possible blackouts, because of the shellings, because of the problems with heat supply, which may force schools to switch into other modes of work. Also, unavailability of textbooks, sometimes because they were printed in insufficient numbers, and also a lot needs to be done to assess and make up for the academic losses of our children. So the most important challenge before us is safety and security, and this is something that we need to focus on. We need to focus the efforts of the government, national government, local self-government, and the teachers and everyone in the field of education. So there is a lot of work to do. It is quite a complex work, and hopefully we will cope with this. We will understand what we'll need to deal with, and we will have to deal with issues in our preparation. Yeah, I believe you can add more about the situation and the formats of education selected for the current year. Of course, safety first, but to which extent we were successful even in coming back to offline classes. Well, first, let me reiterate the main reason of all those challenges. It is Russia that is to blame for all the problems of the Ukrainian education. So no matter what criticism we may have about the local government or the national government, we always need to remember who is actually to blame. Now, speaking of this second aspect, bringing children back to offline education, well, this year the number will be 500,000 people higher than the last year. So this shows how the shelters are being built, how people are coming back from abroad. So the numbers are much higher this year than the last year, but well, 1 million people have started the classes remotely, 1.2 million in the mixed mode, and in this case, we are not fully aware of the exact percentage of in-person training, because since the onset of COVID, different countries did extensive research on the impact of online on children's education. In every country, the results, the academic results of the children deteriorated. So whenever children are being taught remotely, we need to understand that they are not receiving the entire scope of what they could get if they were trained offline. So we need to help children catch up. We need to develop the skills, sometimes from scratch, especially in primary school children. It is recognized everywhere in the world. For primary school, remote learning is not suitable. It does not give the same results in making child ready to learn, helping child to organize their time, to split a bigger task into smaller ones. It's impossible to address those issues without the help of an adult who has been specially trained for this purpose. So the primary school kids are most challenging in this regard. So right now we have children who have never been to actual school because their first form started with the onset of the pandemic. Yeah, so it has been the 4th year since many children started remote education, and we will have to deal with this. We will have to catch up somehow with the academic gaps. Serhii, could you share on this? Yeah, I will support Ivanna and her idea that remote education was very challenging. It has interrupted the comprehensive development of a child. School is not only about educational content, it's also about communication with other peers and adults, and the new Ukrainian school concept concentrates on the communication, which is very difficult in times of such wartime conditions, and especially the 5th form, which has always been stressful because these children transitioned from the primary school, and especially when it's happening now, they need additional support. So speaking of the academic gaps and the ways to compensate for them, it's great that the Ministry of Education and the Committee on Education has started to address those issues comprehensively, and the program has been introduced to develop the concept for the academic gaps. It is great that this has moved forward, but still a lot is yet to be done, and we are missing quality educational metrics. We need to understand what we had in the beginning and what we are having right now. It's very difficult to assess this empirically. As a teacher, I can see my class. As a principal, I could see my school, but for the comprehensive vision, some research is necessary. So we have started this conversation, and the main problem, as we have discussed next to safety, is of course online learning, because of which people are losing some of the benefits they could get. Yes, I first would like to agree with what Serhii has mentioned, and probably with what Ivanna has mentioned, although I arrived a bit later. But indeed, the adequate monitoring of academic gaps is necessary. I am glad that this subject is being discussed right now, but it's a pity that it started a bit too late, because 1 year after the onset of COVID, I started bringing up this issue in the parliament, and I remember how the Committee on Education and Science was not eager to get engaged in this, because there was no methodology for this. So they did not know how to do it, and this is why they decided not to do it. 3 years later, which is right now, we are discussing this, but as a mother of a fifth former, I understand that there is a very clear difference between what we have right now and what we had 3 years ago when he was a second former. And yeah, some gaps are very different to make up for. Some types of knowledge are more suitable for a certain age. Yeah, so in the times of World War II, there was this concept of the children of war, and at that time it was a great accomplishment if someone had, let's say, 5 or 7 classes of education. So our children are children of war, and in this sense as well. Yeah, it's quite scary, and the fact that we are scared to see the result, it's not a reason for us not to do the monitoring, because if we don't do the monitoring, the results are going to be even worse. And before the beginning of this large-scale war, the data showed that 30% of children were not getting the sufficient level of mathematics knowledge. So after the 9th form, people sometimes didn't know the multiplication table. That's that's the knowledge that needs to be fully acquired in the 3rd year of education, maybe. So we were losing lots of people, quite a large percentage of people even back then. And in many other areas of study, the knowledge is acquired incrementally. If you are studying literature, you can skip one work of literature and learn about all the others, and you will still somehow be able to analyze this. But in mathematics, if you skip one topic, you are not able to proceed with many others. And this is how we were proceeding. We were pretending that the children have learned the programs of the previous years, but in this case they were not understanding what was happening in class. So the competencies are lost. The possibilities to develop logical thinking in this cases are lost. And so there was some general monitoring happening. We need to be able to assess each child in particular, because, well, what if we know that 30% of children have not learned their basic mathematics? Okay, but this gives us no information on how to deal with the specific student. We need to understand how to compensate for those losses. So the mechanisms may include some additional work, some even if we assess the academic gaps and we get certain results, we need to understand what to do with that, and catching up with those gaps will require money. But if we do not budget for this ahead of time, we will face with consequences that are even more catastrophic. One more problem that we have in this regard is that we understand that this academic year has started not only for the children who are here in Ukraine, it has also started for children who are abroad, and we are still dreaming of them coming back someday. And also we have children in the occupied territories. So let's start from the children who are currently abroad. So it's the beginning of their second academic year abroad, and they are still students of Ukrainian schools. We do understand that the more they are staying here, the lower the chances of them coming back and continuing their studies in Ukraine. Yeah, it is indeed a challenge to be addressed. We don't have the exact number of children who are abroad. The government gives us a number of 1 million. Other sources give us the numbers between 6 and 800,000, and also some assessments show that there can be 1.5 million. So we hope to somehow address this issue. And as for the overload of children with studies and they're lagging behind with the Ukrainian specific knowledge. So the idea that was proposed is quite simple. It came up in April 2022. So the idea is to first pick the subjects that are more or less similar in Ukraine and other countries, such as chemistry, physics, mathematics, etc. This is something that children will study there, and somehow their marks will be accounted here. But the things that are not taught in our countries, something that has to do with Ukraine, this is something that needs to be learned with Ukrainian teachers, and this will be specialized school for those children. So the amendments are made to those other requirements so that a child can safely come back to Ukraine and become a student in the same school they studied at. So parents want to have some guarantees that they want to come back to the school they studied in before. So there are some technical challenges with that, but in general we are moving in the right direction, and we are giving our children a chance not to lose this connection. Yeah, so has this component started working in the onset of the study year? Well, yeah, there was a recommendation on calendar planning, but well, the parents of primary school children will not be able to cope with this if they want to start helping their children. So for primary school, online learning is not effective, and these schools are right now being defined. In some of the regions the process is still underway, and there is a big lack, there are big gaps in communications. So people are always trying to blame someone else, including blaming the children for not learning well enough or not attending all the classes. So we need to be open about this. It does happen that one at the same school, one at the same teachers, it cannot function both offline and online to the full capacity. I mean, working offline before lunch and working with the children abroad after lunch. So it would be a correct solution to make remote schools separate from the offline schools, and we need to be clear about the reasons for that, and the departments of education should realize that their function is not control, but rather providing conditions for online education. And so the recommendations need to be made to make sure that children are not suggested to be transferred to some unknown schools, to the teachers that they didn't know before. So they need to be ensured that these will be the teachers whose time will be fully dedicated to these specific children, that consultations will be available, that the curriculum will be abridged, and more hours per week would be free. So this is something that we are still lacking in communication, as well as one important message that we are ready to enroll everyone coming back to Ukraine. Those who had Ukrainian lessons online and those who had not. Because, this fear that you will not be enrolled if you don't know Ukrainian history, it can force many people to stay abroad. Of course, it's the parents taking those decisions, and a lot depends on many other factors. But school is surely one of them. School is surely one of the things people pay into account. So we cannot avoid the situation where children will have gaps. Children can have some problems with their marks first, but we are here to enroll everyone. And also there are many civil society organizations that are providing free classes on the Ukrainian studies, and the Ministry of Education is not informing people about that. Organizations such as Smart Osvita, which have their websites, and if one gets registered, the free lessons and tutor support becomes available to one's children. Unfortunately, this information function is not being implemented. Yeah, I do understand that the competition will be huge, and we understand that it is education that children are getting abroad, and children were broadly accepted there, even without the proper knowledge of the language. A lot depends on the Ministry of Health, and they say that Ukrainian system is beneficial in many regards when compared to other countries. Well, I would not be as optimistic about this sector as well. There are some military that are still being sent abroad to be treated because the most advanced technologies are available there. So here in Ukraine, we are better aware of how the system works, and in terms of personal perception, people can evaluate Ukrainian health system very positively. Some people are coming back to have their teeth fixed. But in terms of Ukrainian education system, I'm very pessimistic about, let's say, children of the 10th or 11th form coming back. Because it makes no sense for them to come back to Ukraine if they can study free of charge in a good university with good chances of being employed in the European Union. Well, what we are offering instead is to come back and to become students of Ukrainian institutions of higher education, which are very difficult to inform in these conditions. Reforms are one of our ways to fight for the next generations, because telling the parents living somewhere in Germany, somewhere far away, well, even if we tell them, okay, come back, we have shelters, they will not be impressed by that, because in Germany they don't need a shelter, they don't have air raid alarms, and they have a very good curriculum, etc. So patriotism is a good thing, but when you are thinking about your child's future, it sometimes makes parents make other decisions, especially people from a city like mine, which is Kharkiv, which is still unsafe, and their children are still not studying offline. So we need to recognize that we need to ensure security. We need to continue and expand the new Ukrainian school reform. Unfortunately, it was not been promoted strongly enough over the recent time, and it is our way to fight for the generation that has left, and that we still have a slight chance of bringing back. So, of course, it creates double pressure. We need to take care of safety and also keep improving the quality of education. Well, maybe this will not sound empathetic, but it's the people in the trenches who are having a difficult situation. All the rest are doing much better, and of course, our life is difficult. We did not want to have such a fate, but we also have no other choice, because if we just keep doing the same thing we did before, these children will not come back. We can win over Putin, but we can lose the war for our future. In winter, I had a situation when some students were leaving the room. I mean, the 20 plus students who are adults already, they were still having challenges discussing issues that have to do with the war. But for the rest, it's difficult, but we have no other choice. And now let us discuss the children in the deoccupied territories, or the territories that are still under occupation. So what do we know about them? Do we know if they are taking part in the Ukrainian education process? How many of them are there, and what can be done by us for them, and what's happening in those territories that have been deoccupied? Let's say Kharkiv. Have we managed to organize educational process there? Unfortunately, children in the occupied territories are separated from Ukraine's education system, and some statistics from my work as an ombudsman. Over the last year, we got 700 applications, and this year we got just 5. The problem is the Russians have taken full control over all communications. It's indeed very unsafe to go on the internet and make any connections with Ukraine. One should use VPN and actually to be a very advanced computer user to feel safe. We cannot make it there because the temporary occupation. This is an honest, although quite unpleasant answer of why we cannot help these children for real. So if we keep helping them, if they accept our help, it is going to create danger for their lives, and that's very serious. As for the deoccupied territories, the situation with education is quite challenging as well, because the front line is not really far away. I have recently visited the Zolochev community in Kharkiv region. Now, the education process cannot be organized there. It gets about 30 seconds for a missile to get to that place. And even if it were possible, a real shelter, real bomb shelter would be necessary for this to happen. Also, one other problem is that people are not there anymore. Many have left, and we had a very challenging situation in the fall when teachers were not able to get their salary, not because of unavailability of funds, but because of the unavailability of accountants. So those territories, because of their safety levels, they don't have the people anymore, and there were separate parliamentary hearing on the resumption of education in those territories. And one more very serious issue is assessing who is the collaborator in the field of education. And well, it's quite a challenging area, and we have two dangers basically. One danger is that collaborators can be allowed to work with children if you fail. Another danger is that some innocent people will be damaged. So it may happen that, for instance, a collaborator stays in the school administration, and some innocent people are then suffering because they were not collaborationists. Well, I'm impressed with these numbers. I heard that last year there were 700 applications, and this year only 5 applications from the occupied territories. This proves that we know nothing about the situation with education of children in those territories. And I believe in this case the government needs to do at least two steps. First, we need to simplify the documenting of children. Despite the wartime conditions, that there are those who are abroad, and there are teachers who work with the children remotely, and there is still a requirement to collect information on where exactly the children are located. And for this reason, some people can leave the Ukrainian online school because of this requirement to provide this information. And there was such experience in 2014. We had the situation where we somehow recorded the children entering Ukrainian universities, but we need to make sure that this information is always encrypted. And also we could try to help at least the older students in schools. If we had boarding schools for children who could study, well, let's say children who have parents or other relatives who are staying behind in those occupied territories, but if the child wants to get their education in Ukraine, these boarding schools would give them a chance to study here in Ukraine and enter Ukrainian universities later. But this would have to be a separate program in cooperation with special services and the government. Indeed, it entails additional risk of leaving the non-government controlled territories. And, even if we had dozens of children per year, this would be some result already, but some managerial decisions are necessary for that. And one more question, Ina. Are we getting ready for deoccupation at the national level? We all believe that our territories will be deoccupied soon, but do we understand at the government level what's going to be done with those children who have been educated there? Some of them for 2 years, some of them for 10 years. Yes, we have schools right now, schools that have boarding school classes. I know such schools where children are staying there since the 5th year of education. The percentage of them is small, but the cases are there, and this is something that can be scaled up. So as a part of the many solutions we are looking for right now, it is surely something that has to be in place and something that's unavoidable, but still, this is something that has to be there. And you know, even children from the occupied territories of Kharkiv region, where they cannot get education, they could get education in the nearby Poltava region. So, of course, it's difficult to let one's child go, but it's better to take this step and give the child a chance to have some future, to get some in-person education, especially if the child has never been to real school before. So as for getting ready for deoccupation, I strongly believe in deoccupation, and I do understand that just phase is not enough. The deoccupation will be long term, and it will be quite challenging to address the collaborationism issues, and it will be extremely painful in education. You know, the doctors have their Hippocrates oath, and they just have to do what they are trained to do. The doctor is not discredited by the types of people they are caring for. We need to make sure that we address the issue of collaborationists, and there are no simple solutions. Some commissions will have to be established. We will need to collect the data. I do understand that this will be quite unpleasant for teachers who were not there to collaborate, and they can feel the right indignation, but it also will be our only way to proceed. One more, we also will have to work with collaborators in government-controlled territories. So they are there. There are those who were promoting these issues, and so we will have to we will have to think about this, and so we will have to respond adequately, and we will need to take into account that some of the schools have moved from the frontline territories. They work remotely. People have left all their property. They are getting their teachers' pay, and they are also getting those 2,000 hryvnias of government aid. But there are other colleagues working in the working in the education who get the money from the occupiers, and those who are also coming here to get their aid once a month. So these people are totally frustrated, the patriotic teachers who have left their place, and they are seeing that it is much more profitable to be a traitor, and there needs to be some plans for deoccupation, and there needs to be some plans for those staying in this system. So also teaching in Russian. This is not happening in schools, but it is still happening in universities, and also textbooks in Russian. Once we decided to forbid Russian sources in the universities. Of course, we can skip a bit about the science, but I got many young students contacting me who were given textbooks in Russian in their universities, and they could not understand anything. So I lived in Kharkiv with many Russian speakers around, but I was learning mathematics in Ukrainian, and I didn't know how to do math in Russian. So we cannot understand why people are still getting their textbooks in Russian in 2023. Yeah, thank you so much. And dear colleagues, if you have any questions, do ask them quickly. Yeah, I'm Elena Litvinenko from Current Forum. A question to Serhii. Are you aware about the format of training, and do you still get in contacts? Do parents and educators inform you about the challenges with the educational format? And yeah, what are the issues that people are concerned with? Well, the communities have had to select their formats of education. That was mandatory, but this format can be updated later depending on the needs of the parents. So we have situations right now when the school principals refuse to transfer a child to remote or family education. Well, we do understand the challenges of the remote education, and indeed, as we have explained before, these challenges existed since the very beginning, and in this case, better late than never. But as for the family education or other forms of education which are sometimes not being permitted, let me tell you one basic thing, maybe a bit philosophical, but we have some considerable imbalance between the powers of the communities and their obligations. Yeah, the communities got lots of independence in terms of money and decision making. It is great, but we have forgotten about the mechanism for ensuring the rights, and such situations unfortunately do happen. No other questions, so we would like to thank you. We see that this is an important and relevant subject for every one of us. Thank you for being here. Thank you for discussing such important issues. Thank you so much for being interested in the subject. Let's keep on working together. Let's thank our armed forces for the opportunity to keep working. Glory to Ukraine.